Okay.
Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. I've actually got some peppers, and check it out. This gardening shed that I'm using for all sorts of other things actually has something garden related in it right now. So I've got a number of plants little peppers I'm going to pot up. And I know I've got an area over here of a whole bunch of propagated plants, but I think I'm going to turn over a section over here. And this just all got scraped bare yesterday. Well, not all of it. I still got a ways to go. What I had is some Creeping Charlie. And if you're not familiar, Creeping Charlie is this little guy. Really scented member of the mint family, but boy does it take over an area. I had some in a pot over in this area, and eventually this whole thing just became covered in it. And rather than risking losing my garden to Creeping Charlie, I actually began ripping it all out of the ground, scraping this entire section bare. 6 garbage bags so far of Creeping Charlie and leaf litter and some topsoil, but pretty much I'm going to try to see if it can bake in the sun to the point that it dies, because even if I drop this on the ground right now, there's a chance it would just start growing. And I don't want that, so I'm kind of bagging it up, hoping that I can kind of use that as like a solar cooker. Oh cool, check this out. These little onions were not doing this. They weren't doing this earlier. These are some onion sets I just planted. These are some onions that weren't very big at the end of last year, so I let them go through the winter. We'll see if they just get big. Some of them are multiplying. You can see it's got multiples now. Some of them may go to seed. And then there's peas sprouting right there, which is really cool. These bush cherries have been getting hit hard by the bees lately. The bees have been loving them. So we'll see how much. Oh, there's a honeybee right there, center stage. There you are. Do your job, honeybee. Do your job. We'll see if that gives us any fruit this year. I think I just heard a lizard. I'm just gonna eat this for now. But I'm contemplating, since there's a chain running across there, there's a lot of hops that grows up at an angle, creating a nice natural shade barrier. I'm thinking about just starting a whole little plant propagation and seedling area down in this section. So I might build something to keep seedlings on, and I'm going to work on that here. So at the moment I got a bunch of young peppers. What do we got? We got some mini chocolate sweets, some serranos, some big long red sweet peppers, cayennes, sugar rush peach, a couple of ghosts, and some of these are getting to the point where they're pretty large, and I'm going to be transplanting them. So I'm going to put some in here, and then just get them a bigger root base, let them be growing out in the natural environment, and then soon we'll get them planted in the garden. And over time, the more stuff I can get set up for things like this, the better it's gonna work for me. I'm just gonna take these out of here right now. You know, this particular garden shed, I should only have to really build once. If I make a little seedling area for plant propagation, starting seedlings, same thing. That should only really be once. I gotta make that one. So we're just gonna try to be gentle with these, get them transplanted over to here, and then depending on the weather, either let them catch a natural rain or give them a little water. So you can see on this young serrano here how much the roots have grown through that kind of little cube of soil. So we're going to get them in and let them keep expanding. Plant's looking good, and I'm excited to be growing once again out here in the garden. There's some stuff that lasts year-round for us out there, like some of the walking onion greens, the wild garlic greens, kale is another one that's really been here all winter. But then as things start to warm up in the spring, it's time to get these guys out there so they can really produce all summer and into the fall as well. And down south near the equator, from the northern hemisphere way of thinking about down south, pepper plants will actually be pretty much a perennial that can last several years. I've met some in my life down in South Texas that were many years old. Some of them had big woody bases where they were like that big around, like a tree trunk, and were producing for year after year after year until, you know, a decent enough freeze finally came in that wiped them out. But it's really cool to see. We've actually kept some in our house back in Wisconsin. I had one particular pepper plant that I kept alive for I think 3 or 4 years. That was really cool to see just how big that got. And I'd just trim it back a little bit each year, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and move it into the basement of the house. So a couple of these that are kind of tipping over, just using some bamboo skewers and using that to prop them up. Of course, the wind will blow them back down, but I'll get them to go where they're balanced up enough till they get used to being outside. Inside, they're not really exposed to too much. Out here, there's going to be wind, there's going to be rain, there's going to be things that are bending these plants to get them to the point that they actually have some strength to them. Kind of, I think, like when they planted trees inside of some sort of biodome, and there was no natural wind, so the trees didn't really have any strength, and eventually they got so heavy, I think they just started kind of falling apart. That was something people hadn't really considered, I guess, ahead of time. But that's what happened there. So we got some nice serranos. I'm going to get these other ones done up, and then I'm going to see what I do out here. I've got a couple different ways of doing it, potential ways. I'm going to have to see what I go with just to have a nice seedling area. And then over time, I want to catch the water off of here and run it out into a system where I can use that to water my seedlings. So we'll see how we go. 6 serranos done. We'll get some more going here in a minute. As usual, I got distracted. See how many 5-gallon buckets worth of trees that is? Good amount of wild plum, service berry, witch hazel, some elderberry, Osage orange, some other stuff. But this is an area that we should have tamed in our garden. Since we didn't tame it, it's overgrown. So monster truck's back there working on a couple things, and you can see this whole area just not good. So I'm actually going to take from this one with these apricot bushes and apricot trees and comfrey over to here, up to here, and then around past some mulberries and stuff there. I'm going to take this whole section and just fence it off so that the sheep and goats can do it. And here's an example of what that creeping Charlie can do. There was a little bit that got started here. Now it runs up through this raised bed, across that whole area, up into there, all the way over to here. So this whole thing's going to need to be ripped out too. And that'll be another project I've got going. So right now we're just getting all these trees. That's a weird looking tree, son.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Out of this area. And the only real thing I need to remove out of this area that's not in a pot is this is an apple tree. I think sweet pepper was growing from seed. And there is some wild garlic up here too that I can move. Well, we're just going to kind of clear out the rest of these, get whatever is usable out of this area, get everything else out of the area, and then fence this off so we can run them around. What's going on there? So here's a pretty good pile of the wild garlic. I'm going to break it up a little bit and plant it around one of these fruit trees here. This one here is a methylene plum. Now it's got some growing around it. These other plums, which should be probably a Stanley and a Burbank, they're doing the same thing. They already had some under them. This one just got his. Right, Bug?
Yeah.
What are you picking? Dandelions?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, what do you got? A bunny, a rabbit? Okay.
Her name's Sparkle.
And she's eating the grass? Oh, yeah.
And Bugger's picking
Dandelions for it?
Yeah.
Cool. All those are now gathered there. There's other places on the property, but everything from back there is gone. I still got all this to work through, and I want to complete it all at once and everywhere it shoots off into, because these purple flowers are going to be going to seed, and then we're going to have a whole nother issue. And right now this whole area here and through here still comes across and does cut a couple places into the sheep pasture. Right now I do want to do a little more prep work for the fence here, because the sooner I get this fenced, the better. And I'm probably going to pull all my resources out of here, just let the sheep have it for like a year or two while I work on the rest of the garden, kind of keep that stuff tidy and in order where it should be, and then move forward after that. Right now obviously there's all sorts of stuff growing up, so I think I'm going to burn some of these edges, rip out some of this stuff. The fence will come from where I've got it fenced in over there, across here, along this raised bed, across here, then back down that way, and then across the top into that pasture. Eventually there'll just be a chute from this pasture along the fence line behind the garden area up over into there, and the garden area will expand back, have some fences, want a building up there, but we'll see. Got a long way to go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, can you find me some work gloves first though? Probably all I'm doing with that. I just wanted to make sure any of the grasses that were going to seed right here, that those seeds got burned up so they wouldn't pose a threat to the rest of this. But it's windy enough right now and dry enough, I shouldn't really go any further. Well, new day, same life, same trying to balance everything. I'm going to start off with a little bit of gardening, then we're going to talk about what happened last night, which you guys would have saw in the video right before this, and then we're going to talk about what's going on today, which is even kind of more messed up. So these are some of those thornless blackberries that I was propagating. You can see where the node was. It got the sprout coming up and roots going down. So I'm just going to make as many of these as I can out of this. The stuff that still has nodes on it, that's still alive, it's just dormant, it hasn't woken up, we're putting that back in the water. We're just going to make a number of these. Because I'd like to put in, oh, I don't know, maybe like 100-foot row of thornless blackberries this year. Maybe a couple of them. They start producing really good. Of course, blackberries are great. We like them. And just have a ton on our property. It's not like we lack pickers at this point. You know, with a family of 9 people, even if we've got a ton of blackberries growing, we'll still be able to pick them. Here you can see there's 2 different ones. There's one down here with roots in the sprout, one up there with roots in the sprout. Just exciting to see one, I don't know, 8-inch section of plant all of a sudden gives you 2 entirely new plants, and then potential for more as well, because this is going in the water. It's one reason I like plants, is so many of them. If you just come to understand them a little bit, maybe do a little bit of research, maybe do a little bit of experimenting. This was an experiment. I didn't really research this. All of a sudden, I'm getting just tons of extra ones for a little bit of effort. And that's exciting to me. As I often mention, you know, I wouldn't care as much if I didn't eat on a pretty much daily basis. There's a few I'll take off every once in a while for like fasting or something. But otherwise, we eat multiple times a day. We just finished a meal together before I came out here. Now that one doesn't look like much is going on alive. Wow, in fact, the whole part of this that's living, it died from there down and it died from here up. So on that one, only that little sprout was living. We'll give him a home. And as you'll see from this video, I did one a while ago. It was called something like Why Everything Takes Me So Long. And it was just talking about how connected everything is. And even now, like, yeah, the root cellar is a priority. Yeah, I'd like to finish the mini barn. But then also, you know, if I'm not planting and growing plants, then we're not really gardeners this year. I want to be doing that too. I want to be growing our garden, feeding our family from what we do ourselves. So it's a balance, and I don't even think today I'm going to get this thing set up because we got something extra special going on today, which will probably be something you guys see in one of the next videos, which should be exciting for a number of you. You guys should definitely appreciate it. I know there's members of our family who are going to be surprised. Let me just finish up these last couple and we'll get on the way. And then with these, I am just going to give them a good soak to kind of tuck these new plants into their new home, water them in place. Those peppers are doing all right now. I just moved them out into the sun because they were still chilling in here. Last one. So that's 8 of these anyway. If I space them 8 feet up, or sorry, a foot apart, that'll be 8 feet worth of my 100-foot row. I might space them like 18 inches apart. I'm not sure. I might do an experiment. We got those. Let's go check this out. So, I've still got the creeping Charlie to get out of this area. I got all my buckets moved here, which is just a ton. Boy, in this garden, there's sections of this that are looking really nice right now. Primarily, anywhere I worked through the winter of adding up another rock layer and getting new mulch down, looks absolutely fantastic out here. And once they all kind of pop in green, like where these wild garlics and strawberries and currants are down there, once they all pop up green, they're just going to be beautiful. We'll see how many of these fruit this year. Bees have been enjoying them flowers. But up here is the last thing you guys probably saw me doing before. And I decided to take all the rocks out of here. And I burned a bunch of it. Here's where a bunch of that creeping Charlie was. And it was an experiment, just like over here. If I can just burn it severely and have it not come back, and with these grasses too, then I could actually just mulch it this year and keep expanding the garden. If the grasses and stuff are going to grow up and they're going to give me a fit, then I'll fence this off and let it be for the sheep. So I'm still experimenting that. And this was a big long raised bed here, one of the first ones I put in, but this tree was giving me some issues with some deadfalls. That was some of the stuff I was cutting up yesterday. And a bunch of these rocks right now I've put on the edge here. There was like woodchucks and stuff that would live on this side, and they'd come underneath the fence here and come nibble on my garden. So I want a nice rock layer on each side of the fence just to prevent things from coming underneath. And then in the future I also want to add a strand or two of barbed wire at the top. So anyway, all my buckets are out of here, and right now we're still running a number of chicks. We're about to get the next batch in the incubator. And the girls have the 6 chicks they picked off of a deal with our friend. And then they have the original ones from like a month ago. And those are all still living in Monster Truck's room right now. So I'm gonna set up a brooder out in one of our chicken areas. But to do that, I wanna just kind of give it its spring cleaning too. So I'll show you what I'm working on and why I've got extra stuff to be doing now. If you see here, here's 6 buckets. It's got some soil in there, a lot of manure, some straw. There's 6 buckets here. And here's like another 13 in this poultry pen. And I'm thinking, yeah, here's a pile that I scooped out. And then in here is where I'm working right now. I've got a good amount of it done, but right around the edge, we still have a good amount of buildup from the winter. So all this stuff is still going to be removed, taken down to this floor level, and then I'm going to re-straw it. And the plan is, as we try to build up our pastures, I'll be spreading this manure mixture out on the pasture. I'm probably going to throw down a couple of seeds first. Just some extra stuff, so it'll kind of tuck in the seeds, give them a layer of soil on top of that for them to be growing with, and then it'll also be some food for the existing pasture stuff. But it all has a purpose, and I don't mind a whole bunch of, chicken and duck poop, and even old straw and composting stuff here, and then I'm scraping it off at the soil layer too. Some good soil's getting mixed in there. But I'm going to kind of get this whole thing done, which means I need more buckets because these like 18 are full already. And cool thing too, got a plum tree back there, peach tree right here. They're going to be providing shade for our poultry, but then the poultry provides some good high nitrogen fertilizer for them, and these are flowering right now. So excited about that, but I got to get some buckets is my deal right now. So am I building my little seedling area today? No. Am I progressing on that area over there today? No. I'm switching over here, but even to throw that little brooder I'm going to build inside there in there and redo some of the roosting area and some of the some of the roosting area, and then some of the nesting boxes. I'm gonna start off with a big heavy clean first, so it always just takes extra time. That's awesome. I thought about pausing the camera and restarting, but I didn't. And my almost $1,000 Canon Rebel T7i is so high tech that if it runs out of battery, it just loses everything it was doing. It doesn't have like an auto save with its last ditch effort of having any battery. So I was going to show you how I've got like 100 buckets over here that are full of rocks from a rock pillar fence, and I just filled 4 of these 4 with like 32 buckets. So I've got like 32 empty buckets now. Yeah, now you guys just get the idea. That's fine, you can understand. Had a bunch of buckets of rocks, dumped them in to make 4 more pillars. Now I have empty buckets. That's the moral of the story. That, and if you ever make cameras, make them better than they do these days. And then it's sad too, because with as little sense as this video is going to make, okay, I finally got it cleared. I've got all those buckets there, okay? But I'm like, gonna take the nice photo for the cover image. I don't even know what you call it. What do you call that? Do you remember? She doesn't know. You know, just the, I don't know. But then, so I got all these buckets. I took a couple out here, a couple over here. Those ones there I'm bringing back in. So now I'm hauling all these buckets that I hauled out back in just to get a better cover image. Thumbnail. I think they call them thumbnails for the YouTube video. So then it'll look more interesting and more people want to watch me wander aimlessly through life trying to accomplish something and really making progress on everything to the point that nothing really gets done.
I know how many buckets you filled.
How many total? Even these?
41.
41.
Okay, we're going.
From the get-go, I knew this video was going to be a little interesting, but I did not expect to end up with 43 buckets of soiled poultry litter that are now going to go out to my pasture. But eventually, this is where we wound up. So with this tower of 43 5-gallon buckets, they all came out of here. Now we're back to a regular soil floor. What do you think?
I like it.
So I'm going to add some straw, and then we're going to work on changing up some things in here. This is a blank slate right now. Everything's gone. And we're going to work on a brooder, work on some roosting bars, and work on some laying boxes. And I think I'm also going to turn part of the outside of the pen into an enclosure that's safe from like possums, raccoons, hawks, owls, everything. And maybe from like the front of the building all the way around and back, and even with the top of the building, have it be secure, so that way if the ducks want to start a nest out here, they can do so and be safe for the 28 days it's going to take them, you know, to incubate their eggs. Oh, speaking of eggs, this is one of the ones that just got laid. I think it was the white one that we got from Jeff at Bobblehead Homestead. So good looking egg. We're throwing more in the incubator tonight, aren't we? Yeah?
I hope so.
So now we've got this nice kind of clean slate for them for the year. With all that stuff building up, depending on what all you have mixed in it, it can actually act as some insulation. It can actually generate some heat too if some stuff is actually on the microbial level happening like it would in a hot compost. So we let it build up over the winter, and then in spring we're going to try to get that out of here and use it in our pastures, because that's going to be a beneficial thing. There's a lot of good stuff in there from some of the seeds that are going to be in there from the straw, which is going to be fine. Some of the organic material, some of the manure that's going to be used, you know, as a plant fertilizer for the stuff growing in our pasture. Just happy to see this kind of start as a clean slate for them this year. And got a ways to go, but happy with what's happened so far. And you know, to pull 43 5-gallon buckets out of here is a lot of work. So I'm going to load them up on a trailer and then carefully spread them. I don't want any too much in any one area in the pasture. I want it spread out so that it feeds a good long area. But some of our pasture is some really rough stuff too, where it's just a lot of exposed rock and just tons of it. But we can start building up things on top of that too. We'll remove the big ones that make sense and then just start building them up, because we want to get into rotational grazing here, and we want to get into where we have some real good pastures, kind of decrease some of the level of like sheep, for instance. I don't even know how many we got right now. 30-ish? Between 20 and 30. Probably close to around 30. But, you know, reduce that level. And we've got a couple things we're going to be working on to do that. And then also just kind of making sure stuff doesn't get nibbled down too much. There's kind of a low-level pasture that takes forever to grow back. There's kind of the mid-range pasture that'll grow back quicker. And then there's the really tall stuff, which pretty much stops growing, completes its life cycle, and goes to seed. So before it hits that, but also before they nibble down to nothing, we want them to be kind of bringing it all into balance. So I'll see what I can do here, and probably work on a couple nice little nesting boxes for the ducks in here too. They should be laying soon and getting back into that, and we just want them to be printing a whole bunch of Muscovy ducklings for us.
Thank you for watching. Hit the left button. Thumbs up.